Hey, happy beach day. I'm on the right day today. I have a story to share with you by Margie Palatini. I'm going to get rid of the shades here. It's called Stinky, Smelly Feet, a love story. And again, Margie Palatini, when she writes, she uses lots and lots of descriptive words. This book is illustrated by Ethan Long. It's dedicated for my sometimes stinky, smelly, but sweetie of a son. Douglas and his dear friend Dolores were having a splendid day in the park. They skated, they sailed, they snacked on cucumber and butter sandwiches beneath a big shady tree. Douglas was quite smitten with Dolores, and one could see that Dolores was quite smitten with Douglas as well. Dolores giggled. "Oh, let's kick off our shoes and let the grass tickle our toes." "Oh, what fun," said Douglas. "Yes, let's." Douglas pulled off his left shoe, and he had just flung off his right shoe with carefree abandon when suddenly, plonk, down went Dolores. "Oh my, oh me," cried Douglas. He fanned Dolores with a napkin to give her some air. "What is wrong, my dear? What's wrong?" Dolores opened her eyes and mumbled softly. "Oh my, oh me, I can't hear you," said Douglas, furiously fanning and waving and waving and fanning. Dolores mumbled again. "I still can't hear you," said Douglas with another fan and wave. Dolores mumbled some more. "Oh, Dolores dear, what can I do? What can I do?" cried poor Douglas. Dolores sat up. She took a deep breath. "Put on your shoes," she shouted. "You have stinky, smelly feet." Kerplunk. Down again went Dolores. "Oh my, oh me," said Douglas. He didn't know what to do. Fan Dolores or put on his shoes. "Shoes, shoes," muttered Dolores oh so softly. Shoes it was. And in no time Dolores came to. "Oh, that was a close one," she sighed. Douglas helped Dolores off of the ground. She picked a squished cucumber and butter sandwich from her hair. He, of course, was very embarrassed about having stinky, smelly feet. "Oh, think nothing of it," said Dolores, patting his hand. "But I do think a bath might be in order." Douglas was in total agreement. A long, hot, soapy bubble bath with plenty of bubbles was surely the cure for those stinky, smelly feet. After saying adieu to Dolores, Douglas hurried home. He filled the tub and soaked in the hot, soapy water for 1 whole hour and 15 minutes. His feet now smelled quite delightful, not a bit of stink to be sniffed. Douglas telephoned Dolores to tell her the good news. She was very happy to hear it. "Would you care to take a whiff this evening?" he asked with great confidence. Dolores ever so politely declined, but she did accept Douglas's invitation to see a movie. At the theater, he bought her a big tub of popcorn, a box of chocolate candies with sprinkles, and a giant soda with 2 straws. Yes, it was plain to see that Douglas was very smitten with Dolores, and Dolores was indeed very smitten with Douglas as well. The two sat very close together in row 13, which was their favorite number. The theater darkened, the music swelled. The movie was just about to begin when Douglas felt something very uncomfortable under his left big toe. "Oh my, oh me," whispered Douglas to Dolores. "I think I have a pebble in my shoe." "Oh, please do remove it before the movie starts," Dolores whispered back. "That could be so unpleasant." Douglas untied the laces and slipped his foot out from the shoe, and then suddenly he heard a plop. "Oh my, oh me," gasped Douglas. Dolores was face first in the popcorn. Pop, plop, pop, plop went everyone else in the row alongside Douglas, and the very next row, and the next, and the next. There was a very loud P-U, followed by a mad rush for the exits. A policeman in the lobby shouted through a bullhorn, "You, in there with those stinky, smelly feet, come out with your shoes on." Douglas was extremely embarrassed about having stinky, smelly feet again, especially in public. Dolores pulled a piece of popcorn from her ear and patted his hand. "Perhaps what you need is a bit more powder, my love." Douglas looked at Dolores. "Perhaps." So Douglas went home and he showered and he powdered and he perfumed and then he sprayed. His toes were decidedly more fragrant, the most fragrant they'd ever been. He went to sleep that night very happy and pleased, knowing he no longer had stinky, smelly feet. The very next morning, Douglas knocked on Dolores's door. "Would you care to join me for a day at the beach?" he asked with a big grin and sweet feet. "I would love to," replied Dolores. So the two packed up their blanket, towels, buckets, and a big striped umbrella, and off they went. Douglas stuck the umbrella deep into the sand, and he and Dolores sat under its shade, staring at the ocean and watching the waves. They gathered shells, they built a sand castle for two, and they shared a hot dog with lots of mustard. Yes, Douglas was very smitten with Dolores, and Dolores was indeed very smitten with Douglas as well. She looked into his eyes and said, "Shall we wiggle our toes in the sand?" Just to be safe, Douglas checked which way the wind was blowing. Just to be prepared, he handed Dolores a clothespin for her nose. Alas, it was not enough. When Douglas removed his shoes, Dolores went down for the third time. "P.U.!" cried the crowd. The lifeguard blew his whistle. "Abandon the beach!" "Water, water," mumbled a faint Dolores through her clothespin nostrils. Douglas grabbed his bucket and hurried to the water's edge and ran back to Dolores. Splash! "Ah, not for me," she gulped and coughed. "For your feet, your feet." "Oh my, oh me," said Douglas, wading sadly into the ocean. It was not a good day at the beach. It was not a good day for Douglas and Dolores. "I have stinky, smelly feet, and that's all there is to it," sighed Douglas after another long, hot, soapy bath. Dolores sat down next to Douglas and patted his hand and sighed as well. They were both quiet. They were both quiet for a long time. And then Dolores smelled something very bad, very foul, very nasty. And it was not Douglas. It was coming from the bedroom closet. "Aha!" Dolores happily exclaimed as she made the discovery. "I don't think you have stinky, smelly feet at all." "Oh my, oh me, I don't," said Douglas, very surprised. Dolores held her nose and shook her head. "No, not in the least. Your feet are fine. It's your shoes. I believe you have stinky, smelly shoes." They both sniffed. Kerplunk! They came to and concluded, yes, it was most definitely the shoes. So they got rid of the shoes, every last stinky pair. Douglas was more than ever smitten with Dolores, and Dolores remained very smitten with Douglas as well, which turned out to be really nice indeed, because as it turned out, Douglas's shoes weren't really the problem. No, he still had stinky, smelly feet, but it did not matter, for what Douglas and Dolores had was really true love. Thanks, boys and girls. I'll see you tomorrow.